Hello and welcome to Your Average Critics, a weekly podcast dedicated to film, TV and pop culture. I'm back this week and joined... I wanted to say a massive thank you to Obi for being in my stead. You did a sterling job, and I think I've got a run for my money. So
to be fair, we were talking earlier and we were planning to out you.
Oh, really?
Oust you out of the group.
It's a mutiny. It's a mutiny. So we're literally going to tell me to get out, which is hey, Obi can't think of segues like that, can he? So I'm joined this week by Obi, Chris, and Oliver, or Ollie. Ollie. We can edit that out. I never call you Oliver. I never fucking call him Oliver. I don't know why I said that.
Christopher?
Christopher Hammerfule. So
wow, I found out my government name, jeez.
Right, how long is that to the first edit? 52 seconds. Brilliant. So this is why Obi does the podcast. So this week we're going to be talking about Get Out. We're going to have a little spoiler-filled Logan chat. Also going to talk about some anime, which is something that we haven't spoken about before, and something which I don't think we're all that well versed in. Certainly not myself. But anyway, how's your week been, guys? Or the last 2 weeks since I've seen you?
I went to Birmingham yesterday.
Birmingham?
To see Arsenal.
Oh.
It wasn't very nice. You know.
Okay.
Arsene Wenger continues to break my heart, but you know.
Yes, he's been breaking my heart since 2006.
That's life, innit? Alright, no offence to anyone.
This isn't going to be a football podcast.
It's not.
You can save that.
It's not, but no offence to anyone who might be from Birmingham and listen to this or have an affiliation with Birmingham. But the whole of Birmingham, at least the bits that I went to, it smells like piss.
Oh God!
Like genuinely.
You got to go during St Patrick's Day. That is the best time to be there.
And it will smell even more like piss.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was there the day after St Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
True.
How was your St Patrick's Day, guys?
It was alright. I watched Iron Fist.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Anyone do anything special for St Patrick's Day?
Bar crawl all the way through London.
Such
Yeah.
an alcoholic.
Although I tell you what, something did happen this week. It's another toilet incident, but not on my part.
that made me crack.
I was in a restaurant and there was like the guy's toilet, so I give a little knock. Door was open, so I open it, and there's a fucking guy just sitting there, stark bollock naked, just dropping a doozy.
Dropping a doozy.
What did you do?
And I'm like, I don't know whether to apologise, and I'm like, shit. I just walk out. I'm like, when you knock, why don't you think like you put a foot there in case the latch isn't working, but he's just happy. He was happy. So
dear.
Yeah, that happened.
Well, hopefully you have a toilet story every week, because last week.
We should make that a segment, like Ollie's weekly toilet story.
Have you got any Irish heritage in you?
Not that I know of.
No, pretty much everyone does. But
Just to you.
No.
So you said 2 people have Irish heritage.
Yeah, on Twitter I posted because I thought you did because your middle name's Patrick.
No, not because of that.
Oh, I thought you had Irish heritage, Chris.
No, mate,
fair
no.
enough. Okay, well, just me then, I
Yeah.
guess. Maybe Obi, you've got Irish heritage.
To be fair, yeah, my great uncle Femi.
Femi O'Callaghan.
Yeah.
Femi O'Callaghan. Right, well, that's our weekends. I was in York last weekend, which was a lovely part of the country.
Shithole.
Doesn't smell like piss, and actually it smelled like shit because I was on a farm. But yeah, and then this week was in Southampton, which kind of does smell like piss as well. But I like Southampton.
I think you sound like I smell of piss.
Oh no.
It'll make it much better then for you, clearly.
So let's talk a little bit about Logan, because I know we've spoken about it the last couple of weeks, but now we've all finally seen it. We can kind of spoil it. So as usual with this podcast,
There are spoilers.
Spoilers for pretty much. Just assume anything we talk about.
People keep complaining to me that there's spoilers in these things, but we literally say before we start talking about it, there are spoilers, so beware.
Yeah, I'm even going to start putting it in the description for these episodes. Because episode 6, I put, spoiler free Logan, so this is going to be spoilerific. So, main points, gotta be the deaths.
Yeah.
What did we think?
I thought it was a bad dream when.
So we're talking about Professor X here.
Yeah. I genuinely because I was looking at you. I was like, I grabbed Obi's arm. I was like, this can't be real.
Yeah.
I was so shocked. Like, both of the deaths, I didn't expect either of them to happen, and like I knew, and at the point where X-24 killed him, I knew that the person who was in that room, I knew straight away that wasn't Logan because they would have shown his face. But like I didn't expect. I thought they were just gonna take Laura and then just leave,
Yeah.
rather than him actually like go and kill him. And even when he did kill him,
Well, it's because he turned around and he saw him.
Yeah.
So it's because he looked like Logan.
Yeah,
That's why he wasn't fussed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even when he
Because I was like, oh well.
Is
then
that the
this
first
can't
time
be
we
real.
see X-24? I think it is.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
As far as I can remember.
Go on, sorry.
Well, I was gonna say I was properly shocked by Professor X's death. I kind of saw Logan's death coming because it was all about this is the last time Hugh Jackman's gonna play Wolverine. You know, it's kind of based on Old Man Logan, isn't it? The comic strip. And I kind of thought if he's not gonna play it anymore, the only natural ending for his character is for him to die.
Yeah. I just thought I was just so waiting, and I waited I stayed the first time I watched it. I stayed till I see the end credits. I was waiting for a Batman v Superman scene where the ground moves, or something, just to show that he might still be alive, sort of thing. But they never, like, fair play to them, they didn't give it. So
yeah, I did sort of think that as well. I thought it was quite poignant when she moves the crucifix over to an X.
That was nice.
But okay, so what do we think about the deaths then? Were you kind of angry that they killed off maybe Professor X, if we sort of expected?
I feel like it's time.
Yeah, it's inevitable, really, isn't it? They're both coming to the end of their X-Men lives, so...
But for Patrick Stewart's character to die in such a brutal way,
I know.
and also like he died thinking it was Logan, we assume.
Was it fair? No, he said it wasn't me. Well, Logan was saying to him, it wasn't me, it wasn't me.
He was still alive,
as he was grabbing him towards the thing. Even then, when Professor X died, that's what I was going to say a minute ago. When Professor X was dying, I thought, okay, they're going to get into hospital, they're going to save him. But he just dies right there. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I thought maybe Logan could put his blood in him and he could heal or something.
He had 3 blades in his chest. I'm surprised he lasted that long.
This is it. That was the problem that you had with the head of the family who shot.
Yeah, so the Munsons, something like that.
Yeah.
The patriarch, I guess, of that family, he gets killed, and then you kind of see him in a pool of blood. And this is also something which I had a problem with in Get Out, but and then it's kind of like a Deus Ex Machina moment where he just comes back just for one last stand. And he just shoots him and then dies. I was like, what the hell? Could you not have had another character do that, or at least, you know, he's kind of like, okay, he's dead, and then he comes out, shoots X-24 with a shotgun, and then collapses. I was like,
to be fair, we didn't see him die. We saw him get
mauled.
Mauled, but it actually seemed like we saw the wife. We saw the wife dead. We saw the kid dead. But we didn't.
But he had the strength to shoot a shotgun or a rifle.
Adrenaline and revenge.
And then he literally just drops dead.
Adrenaline and revenge can do a lot of things to you.
Supernatural power.
Innit?
And then bam,
And then,
he's like jelly.
Yeah. Well, then what do we think about X-24's eventual demise? So
yeah, fuck him, man. I don't care.
So, but I mean, obviously we want him to die. But in terms of, so we had a debate off air about whether he's got Logan's healing factor. So is he? Do we think he's a direct clone of Logan?
I thought he was.
So then,
but my thought was that when the guy shoots him and he's pretty much out of commission, he's not healing at that point. He's literally there against the wall
because he can't
messed up.
He can't. How could he heal?
But isn't that Wolverine's healing ability? He can just heal.
But not whilst he's impaled on something.
And that's why.
Really?
I'm assuming so because your body can't just.
It's like
I assumed it healed around him, and then once he took it out, it would heal further.
Well, I don't know. Maybe this doesn't count because of the continuity of the X-Men universe. But in Days of Future Past, when is it Magneto puts all of the metal through him? He doesn't heal then.
But he can't heal over the metal. So
no,
he's
exactly.
Healing up to the point of the metal, and then that's it. He can't go further until the metal's taken out, and then it'll keep healing. That's my assumption of it.
Yeah, but then obviously, like, X-24 needed to be removed from the.
Yeah, but his face was blown off. Part of his face was blown off, and his face was not healing. That's my point.
That's true.
The rest of his body, I don't care about the rest
of
his body.
Also, if he didn't... Sorry, I shouldn't have gone, Chris. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, that's right, but I was just saying, like, the car it hit on him, wasn't it? The car hit him.
Yeah.
So that part, fine.
It impaled him on the thing.
That can't heal fine, but his face, I'm pretty sure his face was shotgunned, and that wasn't healing.
Yeah.
So my assumption is that he's just like a super strong clone / robot.
Right.
And that's why, inevitably, the adamantium...
That was going to be my next point.
in.
So, and again, I know we can't really rely too much on the history of X-Men continuity,
but nonsense.
But it's in Origins where Logan gets shot in the head
Yeah,
and
doesn't kill him.
heals.
But then the question is, do we just write off the first film? Because Deadpool essentially writes off the first film in some ways, and so does
I
the
suppose.
age continuity error kind of writes it off a
I
little bit.
suppose.
But then I guess it's like I was saying, if you shoot adamantium into adamantium to the strongest metal, then go through the strongest metal? I don't know. How does that work in real
So
terms?
what I'm having trouble with is that adamantium is supposed to be the strongest metal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it can't really be pierced. So, yet how is he impaled by a tree?
I think it's just his bones that are adamantium.
Yeah, I think it's
so he's still
adamantium
got
bone.
flesh.
Yeah.
So this is
He still gets
this is
hurt.
Logan
Every
right at the
time-
end of the film.
Every time he gets cut and stuff, it hurts.
Oh yeah, flesh wise. But then so that means he could never get a broken bone.
He does make a fair point. If the tree's going straight through him, that tree's essentially just destroyed all his
True.
adamantium insides.
True.
But then he is getting old, and he does have a disease, does he not?
A degenerative, because the adamantium poisons him.
Poison him, yeah.
So maybe he's just so poisoned. He's just gone.
So my question here is,
Can I just quick? Does she take him off the tree before?
she
Not-
chops.
Well, that's the thing. Well, sorry,
Go on.
Well, please do come back to your point, Obes. But when he's on the tree, he can just fucking cut it out of him, and surely he'd start healing.
I think he
Yeah.
was too far
That's-
gone.
that's my thing,
I think
but
he
yeah.
was too far gone at that point.
But they could
Okay.
give him the serum, and he just.
He drank it all, didn't he?
But I'm sure they could find more.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
Oh.
suppose that would just destroy the whole
Well,
point of the
yeah.
ending. But
It's
anyway,
probably
time.
like, oh my god, just let me go.
So it's when he was. Sorry, I'm going to come back to my point in a minute. But
Obi's interrupting himself.
yeah, when he was dying, I really liked this bit. He was like, oh, so this is what it feels like to die. I was thinking, oh, that's sick. Like, finally, he's actually experiencing death after, like, was he 200 years old
Yeah,
or something
probably.
stupid like that. Anyway, back to the point I was going to say a minute ago. So, if we're saying that X24
Yep.
is just like a super strong clone and
Mm.
doesn't have the healing factor, and X23, we've seen that she does have a healing factor,
Yeah.
why would the scientists not make X24 with a healing factor as well? If they can make X23 with a healing factor?
Maybe they didn't have his DNA.
maybe because X23 is the daughter of Wolverine, who has the original regeneration.
Is she a
ability.
daughter? If she's a daughter, then isn't X24 a son? Technically,
That's a good point. It depends. I don't know.
She's not actually a daughter.
But she was.
Well,
she
she's
was.
not actually-
she's a clone
She was fetally grown. Like she was grown as a fetus. wasn't
with
she?
his DNA.
Yeah, but whereas I assume that
I
X20
thought she was a kid just born and then
because
they implanted some sort of like
maybe.
syringe with the
no, but
genes
you
for
see in the
mutation.
you see in the hospital in Mexico like bloody sheets where someone
Yeah.
has given birth.
Yeah.
So they've taken mutant's DNA, inseminated it into a host woman,
Yeah.
and then they've been given birth to. Whereas I assume that X24
Wasn't given birth
Was-
to. They just
wasn't-
create.
yeah,
Okay, fine,
so I
makes-
assume
that
in
makes
that
sense.
sense.
Fair enough.
So with that
That makes sense.
in mind, wait, that means that company had been going because that girl looks like what
It's about 11.
9 years old, 11.
Yeah.
That means that company was doing that for 11 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get with the time zones because you
It
think
must
they
have
would
hap-
have
yeah.
known about it
Well,
Well, isn't in at the end of
because the rest of the X-Men would have been around there.
What's
right?
that? Sorry. What was
11 years?
yeah, you think so? You think Charles Xavier would have known about it before he went and seen her?
Come on, Charles.
yeah, I think that what would be really interesting.
I think we're poking holes.
What would be
We
really
are.
interesting. So
This is the whole
I think
point of
I
it,
think
isn't
the biggest hole in this whole film is that it's set in 2029.
It's too
But then-
soon.
But then going back to that, I feel they did it on purpose because I think Fox might have done it so that there was no way that Marvel could ever get Wolverine in their film. Because if you think about it, we're set in 2016, 17 now if we did a new Marvel films.
Yeah.
So compared to how he's aged in the most recent Logan film, he wouldn't have aged that much up to this point when the new
but they
Avengers
wouldn't
come
be
out.
able to reference the old stuff because obviously you got Tom Holland, who's Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That they've just discounted Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire,
Yeah.
and then also Aaron Taylor Johnson, who played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron.
Mm.
He's not Evan Peters,
In
who's the new generation Quicksilver.
Yeah.
So they just recast him, I assume.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say is, adamantium's the world's strongest metal, but isn't vibranium also
Yeah.
in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Who Black Panther?
I think they're both really powerful, really strong, but I think adamantium is the stronger metal of the two.
Okay, it'd be interesting to see if they ever both those metals were ever in the same.
Yeah.
universe. I don't know.
They need some Valerian steel in there as well.
Exactly, forged by dragonfire. Okay, so
Oh, can I just air my grievance about the accents quickly? Sorry,
Yes, go
'cause I
for
didn't
it.
get to say it on the last time because I didn't really want to spoil it, but I'll say now. So, X-23 is a Spanish speaking, or a girl with a Spanish accent. She speaks Spanish because she was born and raised in the hospital in Mexico, like all those children were, like the nurse said in the video. But pretty much all of the other children who speak all have American accents. So I'm just wondering where that would have...
is it maybe because the nurse who took her under her wing was Mexican? Maybe the others had American nurses or helpers. I don't know.
Maybe. I feel like that's a bit of a reach, though.
Well,
don't
I
know.
reckon Samuel L. Jackson would have something to say about that. He'd say that these American kids could never
Yeah.
understand what it's like to be a Mexican kid.
Just going back to your point,
Uh,
X-24 is a perfect clone
Interesting.
of Wolverine. So he
A
has...
perfect clone, so he has the healing factor as well.
X-23 is deemed not a perfect clone.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Interesting. To be fair, can you be a perfect clone if you're a different gender? So
No, true.
Yeah.
No, but she was deemed a failure, sorry.
interesting. Okay, well, comic book nonsense. Whatever.
Gender's just a spectrum, maybe.
Yeah.
Of course, 2017, mate. All right. So, Ollie, I hear that you have seen a Marvel film.
I did, yeah.
Oh my God!
Drum roll.
Yay!
Wow, Ollie, well done, well done.
So
You've got a lot more to watch, but
we are
well
finally,
done.
after what is this, 8 weeks of the podcast, we are finally getting through to you about the
Yeah.
MCU. So,
I'm gonna make sure you watch all of them. Not all of
Ollie,
them.
please, pray tell, what have you seen?
So I saw Doctor Strange this week.
Did you
Oh.
like it? First of all,
Well, I think we've mentioned this before that, you know, when I first saw the trailer, I was like, I'm not going to understand this.
yeah.
It was relatively easy to get. But the one thing I do want to note about the film, it was alright,
Mm.
I'll give it that.
Mm.
The one thing I want to note about it is that I think last week or the week before we spoke about people doing accents.
Yeah.
And Benedict Cumberbatch doing an American accent
Yeah.
Mm.
was a little bit strange. I
Yeah.
don't know why they cast him for
Doctor
that.
Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Hey. Hey.
I don't know if they could have had another actor, but I
Mm.
don't know if you guys thought it was a little bit odd.
I didn't really notice it at the time, but then I suppose you're used to watching him in
I see what
Sherlock
you're
and
saying.
stuff like that, so-
It just seemed
a bit
it was
odd.
really
False.
Yeah.
put on.
Why
yeah,
did he
yeah.
have to be American?
Because the majority of it's set in America.
in the comic. I'm assuming he's American.
Manhattan, mate? It's where it's all.
Yeah,
made.
but I mean, in the comic, the ancient one is an Asian
Fair
man.
point. Fair point.
So I mean, let's not be around the bush here. If
Fair
they wanted him to be British, he could be British.
Mhm.
Especially as he's got dimension doors that can go anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I mean they've got a London hub, haven't they? In that
Mm.
or headquarters or something.
Yeah,
This is
London,
true.
Hong Kong, and
What really distracts me about that film is his facial hair. I mean, come on, the goatee.
That's how Doctor Strange does it, though, I think.
Yeah, and then that
So-
cloak, the cloak that, like, kind of, it's kind of autonomous.
I know
and
what
it just
you're-
kind of
yeah.
beats up some guy. I was like, that's kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
But what did you think of it then? Did you like it?
I liked it to a point. Yeah, you know, I just ended up watching it, and I thought, oh, you know, I kind of like the fight scenes. What's going to happen next? Because I had no idea about Doctor Strange actually.
No, I didn't even do
But obviously, like, they always do this like huge epic final battle, and I thought, well, it's going on a little bit much.
Yeah.
Although a couple of days later, I found myself just on YouTube going through, and it came up with, you know, like a Marvel thing, and I actually ended up just watching like tons of videos.
Get you!
Yeah.
Get
But
into
it-
Marvel!
Yeah, I know, and it was like 10 characters who can fight the Hulk and beat him up, or you know, things
Yes,
like
I
that.
love watching
So-
stuff like that.
You're finally accepted into our podcast.
Yeah.
I had one.
Now we can be friends.
I had a few things that I didn't like about Doctor Strange, though.
Go on.
So, the first one was.
I can't wait to do our superhero. Fuck.
Oh my god, I'm so
I
excited.
can't.
Maybe we can do it on Saturday.
Go, Chris. Sorry, go.
The first one was definitely. It's got to be the end fight with that baddie where he just kept reversing time.
Don-
It's clever though.
Donna,
It was clever,
Donnarumma,
but it was just a
Donnamumu.
bit like almost a cop out, but I suppose it's got to be in a way.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think we all could see the spoilers that I mean, you all know this, don't you? The guy who became eventually the bad guy at the end.
I didn't see that coming.
I saw-
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
No.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm not pronouncing that guy's name.
I definitely saw that coming. That was.
Did you?
Yeah,
I
I,
didn't.
was
Fair
like, he was getting so annoyed by it and he left, and it was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then also, which is going to have to happen in films, but like the way Doctor Strange went from this absolute nothing wizard
Sick.
to,
Yeah.
in a matter of moments, being an absolute world class wizard.
Yeah. But I listened to a podcast after Doctor Strange.
Boo.
That was it was before this one. Don't worry, I'm not cheating on you. It was before. They were saying that at the end of Doctor Strange, he's not anywhere near as powerful as he actually could be in the comics. So in the comics, he becomes the head of the whole thing, and he's like one of the most powerful people in the whole Marvel universe. But it's at the end of Doctor Strange, he's not actually anywhere near as.
It's because he used that medallion, isn't it? Really.
And apparently, he's still got a lot. There's still a lot of stuff that he can do that they didn't show.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I didn't mind Doctor Strange. I saw from the trailer and I thought this isn't going to be a film I particularly like.
I agree with you.
But then again, I kind of thought that about Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was very wrong with that.
Yeah.
But what I agree with you about the big boss. Was it Donnarumma something?
No. Yeah, that sounds about right.
But
Dormammu. AC Milan.
Yeah, 17-year-old goalkeeper. But yeah, because he's literally huge, and he is like, he could probably just sit on Thanos and like Thanos would just implode. But you know, they had the biggest bad guy they've ever had in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he just gets annoyed. You know, he's like, oh, I've got a song, I'll get on, and then he's just like, all right, fuck it, like I'm leaving, see you later.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll come back.
Then I feel like Marvel bad guys in general aren't very good.
Yeah, they're pretty poor.
Because so the first one was Loki. Loki was pretty good.
Loki's probably the best one.
Yeah,
but because he's got personality and charisma.
Yeah.
I thought Ultron was all right.
No, I don't.
He's a bit naff though. He just was like, I don't know.
The problem with the villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is you know what's going to happen because the superheroes are always going to win.
Oh yeah, of course.
So none of them even come close. I mean, the guy in Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't know what his name is.
What are you talking about?
The
villain.
The blue guy in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Blue guy.
Anyway, I can't remember his name.
The one who whistles.
No.
Oh, the one with a massive hammer. Who puts the stone in the hammer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Him.
Oh.
He was terrible.
Mm.
They have no depth or anything. Because so many of these are origin stories, aren't they? So
you got to get the depth.
The origin
characters
story
rather than
is
the villains, yeah.
the origin story is all about the protagonist. Whereas the thing what happened with Loki is Thor 1 was about Loki and Thor.
Yeah.
So therefore you kind of got, you know, to know Loki and obviously he hasn't
Would
died
you
yet.
like them to go off and do like a few villainous films?
Well,
Would you reckon
that's what I want Suicide Squad to be.
Did you not hear what got announced the other day?
Venom.
Got announced 2019.
Oh.
Yes, that is something that's a brilliant idea. Like to have origin stories of villains, because then you would have a like you'd actually kind of maybe not care about the villain, but
you'd understand it a bit more.
Yeah.
They argued, or I say the corporate that's kind of what they did with Split. So like James McAvoy's character so when they do a sequel to Split, he's going to be the villain, and then he's going to come up against Bruce Willis's character. So they're saying that was the origin story of the villain that's going to be in the next film.
Yeah, but
no way.
You kind of hear the origin of him, but you don't really, do you? In Split, you just know he's got like 20.
You do. I say you get a pretty well-rounded description of how his life has gone, how he's come to be how he is.
But how do you know who he really is?
This is true.
Despite obviously saying his name.
Yeah.
True.
Although that doesn't seem to work now either, so I don't know how they're going to beat him. But I wanted to come back round. Sorry, I know you want to say something, Glenn, but Doctor Strange, I heard a rumour that because obviously Tony Stark or Robert Downey Jr. is coming to the end of his wanting to be a superhero career, that they're going to try and put Doctor Strange as the front runner, like almost the leader role.
Nope.
I do not.
I don't want it.
Almost going to take over from Iron Man, like kind of mantle, and Iron Man's going to come maybe on the back.
Steve Rogers.
No, because Chris Evans
Steve
has
Rogers.
also come out and said that he doesn't want to.
Has
do
he
it.
actually?
Yeah.
He actually only originally wanted to do 3 films and then he wanted to go into directing, but
And
he kept on for a bit.
So you know how like Robert Downey Jr., Samuel Jackson, I think even Scarlett Johansson were all contracted for 9 films. Chris Evans, who plays Captain America, negotiated that down to 6. because he doesn't want to do it for long. Because he wants to be a director and write his own stuff. And obviously he's been in like Fantastic Four, so he's had quite a long superhero.
Yeah, true.
Um,
But then there is a whole storyline of who then takes over.
so it's either going to be Falcon or Bucky Barnes, assuming.
depending on what they take. If they take the old school route, it's going to be Bucky Barnes.
Yeah.
If they take the new...
Who's Bucky Barnes?
So Bucky Barnes is the Winter Soldier. So he's essentially Captain America.
Captain America.
No, so Captain America and Bucky Barnes are best friends.
First Avenger.
Buddies.
And
is this what Civil War's about?
It's
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
It's a large plot.
So I don't know. So eventually, within the next, well, probably by 2020, we'll probably have no Tony Stark and no Captain America.
Well,
What a world.
Well, I
What
don't know.
That's not a world I want to live in.
Well, if the Avengers Part 2 is in 2020, then you might see him still.
Well, that's what I mean. Like that will be their
But
last.
I think Robbie Downey Jr. might still be in it. I just don't think he'll be in it as
They'll just
Iron
CGI.
Man.
Yeah, true. But that's the thing. I think I don't know if we mentioned it a few weeks ago, but I was sort of thinking, well, what the hell is going to happen after Infinity War? I mean, they've literally just announced Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Yeah.
2 years' time, isn't it? Or 3 years' time?
I think it's going to be after Infinity War. But I just can't. None of the new characters are that exciting to me.
Wait, what do you mean? In
So-
Guardians of the Galaxy?
No. As in like in the cinematic universe. So you've got Black Panther. I mean, he was quite cool, but we don't really know him enough.
Well,
When you
that's
see the
the origin
film.
story, I reckon. And he's got a whole... What's his place called?
I
Wakanda?
want to say
Wakanda.
Yeah. I want to say Wakanda, but I don't
Wakanda.
I don't think that.
I think it's Wakanda, something like that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Doesn't matter. But like, he's got that whole place, and that's where all the metal's done and everything. So I mean, like, there's a few stories that you could probably get off the back of that. And his dad was the original Black Panther, or the Black Panther before he was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And then I suppose you've got Guardians of the Galaxy. I get the feeling that there's going to be additions to their team through the trailer.
Yeah.
There already is, isn't there? From the second film for this film, so.
Yeah, you've got the woman with the antenna
Yeah, and then I think the blue guy's also going to become part of their team.
and the blue girl,
Because I don't actually think
Nebula.
in the original comics, I don't think them 5 were the original Guardians of the Galaxy. I could be wrong though. I haven't really read into it too much. But then I suppose you got them. Then Iron Man could become that woman because the new comics has it as a woman now.
Which woman though?
Iron Man.
Have we seen this woman, or do you think? Or?
Oh no, we haven't. No, we haven't seen that. No.
You got Captain Marvel as well. That's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Oh right, the woman Brie Larson.
Brie Larson.
Yeah, that.
But anyway, to conclude this superhero section,
Assumptions.
which we will have an entire podcast dedicated to. And
That
I know
podcast is going to be
we've
so
been-
long.
we've been teasing this for ages, and we're finally gonna let it all
We
out.
need to do it eventually.
Ollie, take a day off.
Bring you
Watch
to
all the
climax
films
with it.
Ollie, actually, I want you to watch at least 3/4 of the MCU films.
I'll do it.
Honest-
I'll do it when you finish watching Lord of the Rings, mate.
Fair enough.
Honestly, watch Civil War. Don't watch Captain America 1. But
Get out of
does
here.
it
Captain
make
America
you
1.
want to watch more MCU films?
Yeah, it's just I like the idea of like these alternate universes.
Captain America 1's really good. I'm just going to throw it out.
My God, I fucking hate Captain America 1.
If you want to watch them, I want to watch that.
Over your opinion's invalid. I want to bounce off what you've just said about alternate universes and talk about Netflix's.
Look at that segue.
I know, mate.
That's
King of
segue.
segues, motherfucker.
Get a segue, mate.
Jeez.
I am a segue. Like you could just. I'm not even gonna continue that. Anyway, Netflix announced that they are gonna trial, or they are thinking about doing multiple endings or alternate endings. So this is where they would film a TV show or maybe even a film, and you could basically choose your path through the narrative. So I don't know if you ever like read those Goosebump books or anything like that, where you start off in a cave and it's like, do you jump over the river or do you go back out the cave? And eventually, there's loads of different ways through it. But what do you guys think of that as an idea, and how well do you think it can work?
For one, I don't like it, for one. And two, I think it's actually quite cowardly of whoever is like writing or deciding how these things end, because I feel like when you're writing something, you should write it with conviction, so you have one way you want it to end or one way you want it to go and stick to it, rather than having, if they don't like this, then we've got this one as well. I think that's
Trying to please everyone.
Yeah, I think that's cowardly.
Yeah, because it's one thing like doing a season, like, so for the example I'm going to use this one that Obi said earlier. it's one thing going and doing like a series of something and then having an ending and thinking, all right, that's going to be the end of it. We'll leave it like that.
Yeah.
And then later on being like, oh, we're going to make a season 2. We've got to scrap that ending now. And just carry
That's
on.
a good point.
That's fine. Like I'm okay with that. Like 24 did it. Like although I think they could have just carried on
What with her alive?
with her alive.
Who-
However, I feel
for the
like
purposes of the podcast and people who don't know, who's alive in the end?
no, we won't say because that's spoilers and people need to watch 24.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Watch
someone
24.
dies basically, and inevitably she probably needs to die to motivate someone
Yeah.
to then carry on.
Sorry, I'm just gonna really quickly interrupt you. This is completely off topic, but if I could delete any TV show from my memory so I could rewatch it, it'd be 24. But
Fair enough.
carry on. Sorry.
Okay, what have you got?
I don't get it. Are you interactive with the TV? Because I thought the entire idea is that people are lazy and just sit and watch telly.
But that's the thing. I read the article, but I didn't really understand it. So I assumed it was just going to be like the last episode
so
could
what,
be
like
different.
Episode 19, you say I want left, I want right.
Exactly. But whereas the books that we just kind of referenced, there would be any turn.
Yeah.
So I mean, essentially, for it to
That's
really
chaos.
work, you'd have to have episode 1.
Yeah.
And then branch off, but
Yeah.
then you'd have to film so many different endings,
Exactly.
so many different
That's
scripts,
chaos.
and
Yeah,
I just don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah, you're right. It's a cowardly way out.
Yeah.
And
But
also-
it kind of reminds me of them games they got coming out now. Have you played any of them? Like, there's a Walking Dead one where you can choose your options.
Yes.
And I don't really like them games because there's no movement whatsoever. You just have to choose left,
Yeah.
right, up, down, whatever. But it's kind of like that. It's just like
Fallout 4's like that, so you can kind of the way you interact with someone or answer their questions can determine like your route through
yeah.
the game.
And you just rude to them every time.
But didn't you say the same with Dead Rising?
Dead
'Cause
Rising,
you
yeah,
can,
that's got a few endings, multiple endings.
Doesn't FIFA
the journey,
the
Alex
journey
Hunter.
because you can make yourself
Yeah.
really aggressive, really calm, or
Yeah.
just neutral.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But so there have been a couple of films like actually I think it's quite frequent that on like deleted scenes or there's alternate endings on films. So I
don't
mean,
know about that. Yeah, that's.
but we can think of like Butterfly Effect,
Yeah,
and I
that's
think you
what I
mentioned
three.
Donnie Darko, which normally is the case because one is the director's vision and one is just like the studio.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't mind that because sometimes they can enhance the film, but I just don't know how it's going to work. Like you said, if there's a sequel, they're going to. I don't know.
Gonna have to pick one, aren't they?
Exactly.
And then either way, what they're gonna do, they're gonna actually wait for everyone's opinion and then be like, oh, do you know what? They like that one more, or people chose that route more. It could be just
I
like
think that's
it's
silly.
so. I don't like
silly.
it.
And
don't
I
like
think
it.
I would watch both of them anyway.
So would I.
Yeah.
So therefore, those statistics would be kind of null and void.
This is what this is it. So
But then what sort of things are they? I can't imagine it's going to be completely different. So
It's
let's
going to be a happy ending or a sad ending.
so let's take
There's no.
Game of
middle.
Thrones series 1, right? If I could have Ned Stark still alive, I would have Ned Stark still alive,
Glenn.
right?
Don't remind me.
But that would surely that would be the only point of that episode that would change, right? He either gets decapitated or he doesn't.
yeah.
Whereas there would just be such a minute detail, which I guess that is a huge point. But I don't know. I mean, for Stranger Things, maybe we could have Will still stuck in the Upside Down or whatever. I don't know. I can't see it working. I think it's an interesting idea, but I think the logistics of it all is far too complicated.
It's not even worth it. Not worth it.
Who actually wants? I feel like have they done any like market research into this? Who actually wants?
I don't know.
I don't know, but let us know if you guys have got any thoughts on this. Tweet us at YAC Podcast 17 or on Facebook at Your Average Critics. Please do honestly get involved. We will read out anything. This discussion was actually posed to us by a listener, Ant. So thank you for that, Ant. And yeah, let us know. Do you think it's a good idea? Kind of what shows? Actually, this is a question for you guys listening and for you guys around the table. I think you may have just been about to ask this, Chris. What TV shows would you change the ending to?
And I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say what TV or films do you think have a better alternate ending?
Ooh.
Oh, I haven't even watched that many.
Okay, so that's 2 questions for you guys. What TV or films have a better alternate ending than the theatrical one, we assume? And then which film or TV would you change the ending to? Boom. So I already said Game of Thrones Series 1, but then that would pretty much change the whole course of the rest of the series.
It would.
I think I pretty much touched a little bit on this last time. So you said what one would you have an alternate ending to?
Yeah.
Chuck season 5 straight up. Last
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
I'd have the alternate ending to that.
Is there an alternate ending to that?
No, I wish there was.
What happens at the end of Chuck Series 5?
him and the girl who's lost all her memories kiss.
He's a lumberjack.
And no,
That's Dexter.
Oh,
Bob!
sorry.
Alright, no, I'm talking about Dexter changing straight up. Dexter is out of there.
Would you, if there was an alternate ending to Breaking Bad, would you guys
I
want
was
that?
thinking about Breaking Bad. I have to see it first, but I didn't really
See,
like
that's,
the ending.
that's
to
kind of
Breaking
one that I'd be intrigued to see.
Yeah.
Like, there's several TV series, like Lost, for example.
Yeah.
I think I'd be well interested to see an alternate ending, but at the same time,
Bad.
would it be as
Walking
good?
Dead. Bring back Glenn.
Oh no, but yeah, there's probably quite a few endings that we could change.
I wanted to actually, going back to last week's podcast, which I unfortunately missed, but enjoyed listening back to, available on iTunes. You mentioned films that you would like to be remade, right?
Yeah.
I think that was one of them.
Yeah.
Straight up Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Like, honestly, I know I don't want to cover the ground that you covered, but
No, Batman vs Superman,
yeah.
by far worse, I feel.
The Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
because at least Suicide Squad they had some depth to the characters. At
Yeah.
least a handful of them.
Also, something that you guys mentioned last week, which I kind of wanted to. I was listening to it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I want to, I've got a point. I want to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah,
I want to speak." It was so frustrating. I almost actually spoke out loud on the train. But you said, I think Chris, you mentioned Kong Skull Island and how violent it was, or gory, or
Yeah, a
you
little
kind of
bit.
thought it was inappropriate for its 12A certificate. Is that kind of a fair assessment?
I'd say that was.
I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the first Indiana Jones film from like 1983. I think it's around then anyway. It is proper gory. Like,
What is it? What thing is it?
it's a PG.
Oh, okay.
PG, and right.
This
So
was back in the day.
bit of context. Back in the 80s, I'm fairly confident, and again, I don't work for the BBFC, but
Yet.
but I think there was just PG and 15. So there was no 12A because I think that came in with Spider-Man 2 or maybe Spider-Man. But so essentially, you either had to give it a 15 and therefore restrict the audience, or make it PG. And so I think this film probably would be a high-end 12A now. But so there's a part in the first 10 minutes where this guy, I mean, you see lots of skeletons and stuff, which is fine, but this guy gets impaled on these spikes, and you see like
Oh yeah.
there's like blood and stuff. And also, like, I mean, throughout, and then towards the end, some guy drinks from the Holy Grail and his face melts, and it is quite graphic.
But could you say, because actually it's not, it might be graphic, but it's so, I don't want to diss it, but it's, it's not great quality.
Yeah.
Because they do like loud noise, you see a knife and it goes obviously into like a pillow or something, and then they throw a bit of ketchup.
But then,
But nowadays it's
it's dated.
pretty disturbing.
But then you've got things like The Exorcist, which is heavily dated.
Oh, God.
Like, we laughed at that, didn't we, like watching that.
I didn't.
And then even things like from the early 60s, we were thinking of Dracula. I mean, they are dated, and they're kind of funny because they're so poor with their special effects. But it's still, it could still affect someone who, you think about PGs like 8 and under, like, or 8-ish is the target audience for that. And that's quite, scary and quite violent and graphic for an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Are there any other films that you guys can think of where you sort of looked at the age rating and you're like, I can't believe it got that rating? I mean, as another point that I thought with last year's 10 Cloverfield Lane, 12A, I watched that film and I was like, this is, like, from a classification point of view, more problematic for me than Cloverfield 1 was, which was a 15.
Yeah, because it had the psychological element.
Yeah, so it was...
Mostly, that's like Silence of the Lambs didn't actually have any, not really any gore or anything like that, like no drug use, but it's because it's a psychological thriller, and that messes people up. So that was, I think that was an 18 or R-rated movie.
It was just insane. I think, obviously, society and people's views are getting a little bit more liberal,
I think it's a couple of people who would like to tweet or email the company and say, I don't think this film's suitable for my daughter.
Yeah.
And then
Don't
it's
take
like,
it,
oh, well, we're going to have to change it now.
But that's why classification interests me so much, because you've got, again, I mentioned this in one of the early podcasts, Suicide Squad is a 15, moderate violence and threat. Whereas you've got things like, are you saying Kong Skull Island, there's actual blood and gore. Things like Raiders of the Lost Ark or...
I tell you what, we just went and saw Get Out, and that was a 15.
Yeah,
So
that was
Yeah.
that was quite a bit of blood in that though. To
That
be
was-
fair.
we'll
Yeah.
go into that a bit more then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I kind of thought Suicide Squad was
Time.
tame. It should have been a 12A, in my opinion.
Mm.
And then we also said that we thought
If that.
Batman vs Superman or even The Dark Knight were, more problematic from a classification point of view. So it's just again like
What did they get?
12s, both of them. So I mean, I don't know. I guess the context. No, I don't really know. I don't know why, but I remember watching that and hearing back on your podcast, and I was like, shit, yeah. I was like, this is so violent.
Yeah.
Get Out then. So, Chris, Ollie, and I have seen it. Obi, it's not your sort of thing,
I'm not gonna watch it.
so we are going to spoil it.
Yeah.
So I know it's only come out this week, but yeah, we're going to spoil Get Out. So, Get Out is a
Horror.
It's a satirical horror. Do you not think?
Define satirical.
So,
please.
it is essentially
Satire.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
So it's
sorry.
comic. It's taking the piss
Yeah.
out of an important. It's dealing with an important issue, but kind of poking fun at it and kind of making it seem like, look, why does this happen? So it's from writer director Jordan Peele, who is a comedian, but it's all about kind of racial tension. So it's Daniel Kaluuya, who's from Skins. Amongst other things, he's a British actor.
Samuel L. Jackson, take that.
Whose his ancestors or his family are from Uganda. So he's obviously African British. I don't know if there's an equivalent of African American, but anyway. So the story is that he has a white girlfriend and he's going to meet their white family, upper class kind of suburbia in, I guess, upstate New York. And he gets there and, he says before he gets there, oh, have you told them I'm black? And she's like, no, they're not racist. It doesn't matter. Why should I mention that? And then they get there and then very quickly things kind of get uncomfortable and kind of, like the casual racism that people don't they try not so hard not to be racist that they kind of
So
showing.
they're trying to relate, but obviously you can't relate with someone
Yeah.
from that. So that like one of them is like, I'd vote for Obama because
Yeah.
obviously all black people would vote for Obama, which
Yeah.
isn't the case. So,
Yeah. It's the sort of thing.
He
It's
kept
like
saying my man and stuff, didn't
yeah,
he?
it's just kind of like the cultural insensitivities that they're trying to kind of endear themselves to Daniel Kaluuya's. I think his name's Chris in the
Yeah.
and they're sort of, oh, you're so strong and your physique suits judo and it's kind of like you don't need to say that. It's kind of like when people say I'm not racist, I've got a black friend. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, you're an idiot, but yeah. So I mean, what did you two think? I mean, I watched it and I was very kind of on edge because there was so many even like looks and little comments and you kind of thought something's not quite right here. And it's also important to mention that the white family have 2 black members of their staff who also act very oddly. So
I think we got quite jumpy for 2 bits to begin with. It was the deer hitting the car.
yeah.
Although we expected that. 'cause
Yeah,
that's
we
in the
did.
trailer.
Yeah, and then but the bit that I think got us first of all was when the woman walked across
When he
the.
was walking down the house and it was at night time and then
Yes.
oh my God, just the loud
Across.
music that was
Yeah,
it.
yeah, the music
I was
was
like,
it.
oh my God, Chris.
No, but as the film goes, I mean, for me, it was alright. It wasn't.
It's had rave
Not
reviews.
10 out of 10?
It was not 10 out of 10, unfortunately.
It got like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, didn't it?
Yeah.
Good for it, but like, nah, not for me.
What was
I
wrong
was
with it?
expecting more. Like, I was expecting more of a fright, a bit more tension. Almost, it was almost too much comedy, which I don't get me wrong, I liked. I thought all the comedic bits were like funny and everything.
Like the TSA guy.
Yeah, the TSA
Yeah.
guy
It's
was
quite
so
hilarious.
funny. That guy, when he's like stroking the dog as he's talking to
So
the
this
other
is
agent and
Chris's
stuff.
best friend called Rod
Yeah,
or something like that. Rod or Ron.
I don't know, one of them. Yeah.
But he's the comic relief of the film, isn't
Yeah,
he?
he definitely is. Like, and then when they're in the police station, he's telling the story, and they're just all cracking up at him. It's just like,
I found it very unsettling, and it wasn't. I mean, for me it wasn't outright horror. It was just kind of you're uncomfortable. Again through the little looks and like you're kind of not sure what's going on, and so there's a point where you've kind of alluded to it earlier where so he's a smoker and he's trying to quit, so he goes outside to have a smoke, and then he sees
That guy running at him.
well yeah but he sees the female member of staff and then he's about to take a photo of her, and then she kind of looks at him, and then he turns around and sees
No, he's not taking a photo, but that's different. So this is
no,
when
but he tries to take a photo of her, doesn't
No, he doesn't have his camera on him at that point.
No, so he's going out
Oh.
for the smoke, and then she's like looking in the window trying to do her hair.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think she saw him
No.
because there was she was only looking at her reflection.
Okay, true. Okay, good point. I'm compounding two things. But then
he
turns,
thought it was like something was mysterious straight away, didn't he?
but then he
So-
turns around and the guy is running towards him, and again that was in the trailer I think. But
Yeah.
then it's so odd, and then he walks back into the house, and then her mother, so his girlfriend's mother, who is a psychiatrist, she's like, oh, let me hypnotize you and get rid of your fear of
Honestly, that's the only part of the film which I'm going to take away from this. I'm never, ever, ever.
Dude,
Not that I was never ever going to do it before, but I'm definitely never, ever,
Mate, we're
ever.
going to a magic show and you're getting on stage.
Oh my days. I'll go to a magic show, but I ain't going on stage.
Well, so she hypnotizes Chris, and then she's like, so also part of his backstory is that his mother died from a hit and run, and then so she kind of brings all that up, and then he gets sent to this sunken place in inverted commas, and then the next scene is he wakes up, and I was like, oh, what a cop out! Like that was all a dream, but then he goes downstairs, and then the male member of staff who ran at him said, oh, I'm sorry if I scared you last night. And then you're like, oh my God, this, it was really, it was creepy. But my problem with it was you've had, I don't know, it was just over an hour and a half long, maybe an hour 45. You spend 90 minutes of the film creating this tension, and then the last 15 minutes was batshit crazy. Like with the violence, so
It's all happening, wasn't it? Yeah.
and so essentially you kind of find out.
It was kind of on that sense. It kind of reminded me of The Shining, because obviously there is him throughout the film going a little bit more crazy, seeing all these things, and then there is the outburst of violence at the end. So,
But for me, it happened too quickly.
yeah,
So you have all this build up of tension, and then you find out quite near the end that his girlfriend says that he's the first black guy she's dated, and then he finds a box of photos where she's had lots of previous lovers.
One of them being the maid.
Yes, one of them being the maid and the gardener.
Oh, was he in there as well? Okay.
So you're kind of like, okay. And then it turns out that she lures these black guys to her parents' house, and then they lobotomize them
snap! Oh,
and then this is kind of also an unrealistic moment. They transfer the consciousness of aging white people into these black people. So essentially,
to what end?
To
live
prolong their life, because their idea is that black people are physically more capable, they're stronger, and so the maid turns out to be her grandmother, and then the gardener turns out to be her grandfather, because they've all been lobotomized and had somehow consciousness put into them. So this becomes apparent, and then they try and put one of their other friends or family friends into Chris's character. So you see this white guy's head get cut open and stuff, and he's tied to a chair, and he gets triggered from his hypnosis by the sound of a teacup. Okay, and then so this is like the Riverdale chat. This is so convoluted, but essentially,
I feel like we're just telling people a story rather than.
But this was I'm trying to build up, give Obi context because he hasn't seen it as well. So there's a part when Chris is gonna get lobotomized, and then become a zombie basically, but he escapes from the chair, and then within about 30 seconds kills 3 members of his girlfriend's family. Well, I mean, yeah, and for me that happened too quickly. There was no. From that point, there was no threat to his life.
I do get what you're saying, but at the same point, he didn't know anything up to that point. They've all then just set him up to that point. He suddenly escapes and he's like, well, I'm in a house full of all these people who want to kill me. You're not just going to be faffing about. You're going to be like, I'm getting out that door.
Yeah.
All these people are coming
I don't
down
know.
with me.
He rushed. I would have taken it slow, I think. Like, when he went into the kitchen and he saw the maid and she ran off, I'd be a little bit precarious. But I think he was like, you know what, I'm just going to go through it.
Yeah, he's been through enough crap. He's just going to go and do it, isn't he?
But
But when he had the pen or something, the spoon stabbed through, fork stabbed through his hand.
Yeah.
A knife, I
That was
think.
pretty grim, but like he had to do it, I suppose.
But it was just, for me, it jarred. And maybe that is the point. But, I mean, typically in a horror film, he would have been in the process of being lobotomized and then he'd escape somehow, or, you know, there'd be more
So
of a...
you wanna see
this,
typical?
but
But
this,
more
this
of-
film
of-
went a bit off the norm. Like there was doors that you wouldn't normally, that in films they would open and he would be like, no, I'm not going to go that way, or like there was things that people would normally test the boundaries of in films and he just did not test the boundaries of, kind of thing.
I just wanted more of a cat and mouse because I felt like it ended too quickly. That, for me anyway, the denouement of the film, which was...
I liked it. I really liked it. Had good music. You know, a little bit of a funny storyline, but you know, a deep message. And
Yeah, true.
I mean,
what was the message?
It highlights the casual and inherent racism in white America, or it kind of plays on that. You know,
Does your girlfriend die?
yes,
well,
we assume she does.
but what I liked most about it was actually the atmosphere of the cinema when we were there, because people
Oh,
were like
Jesus
fucking cheering. They were clapping when people are getting killed and shot.
They actually genuinely
yeah,
were, that's
mate.
the thing.
I thought it was a great idea and a great concept for a horror film. I just feel like he rushed it at the end, but I did enjoy it, and I think it would be. I think you'd be able to watch it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
But it was quite funny, you know, when just the casual. He basically gets introduced to everyone at the party, and then I can't remember.
They're all just basically racist in a different
Yeah.
way, shape and form. So.
Yeah. One of them says, "Oh, is it true that they're bigger and better in bed and stuff?" It's just kind of like, oh god. Yeah, we knew people like that at school. I'm
Why
sure.
don't you tell us about Beauty and the Beast, mate?
Yeah, it was really good. Sorry,
Despite falling asleep, or almost
I only
falling
like the
asleep.
first 15 minutes I was really tired for some reason, and then after that I was good. But it's literally a carbon copy of the
I was just about to say, is it? Yeah.
the cartoon. It's like the storyline is pretty much exactly the same. The guy who they got to play Gaston, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Monsieur Gaston was really good. He's just like, he's got one of them faces where you're a handsome bad guy. Like, he was a handsome bad guy. Josh Gad was good in it. He was like provided quite a bit of comic relief. There were little bits in it where he kind of like, I don't want to say broke the fourth wall, but he kind of like added a bit of
Humour?
No, not humour. Well, yeah, humour, but what am I trying to think? Like present day sort of humour to
Okay.
what was a classic
Okay.
story, and it's like, yeah, it fitted really well. Freddie Morrison was good, you know. The songs I thought were really good, and I was wondering because I didn't know beforehand, because you know sometimes they remake Disney films and they don't put songs in, but they obviously they remade this, but they kept pretty much all the songs in. So I quite like that. The songs were all good. It was like quite like watching like a musical in a theatre or something like that. Like, it was a pretty big spectacle. Yeah, it was good. Like, pretty much, I loved Beauty and the Beast as a child, and this was probably not as good, but that was probably just because when I watched it as a child, like, you know, like a nostalgia thing. So like, it's never as good as the original. Blah blah blah.
Did you not want them to do something kind of original with the story? So, if the animation is a classic and it was nominated for an Oscar, why then remake it shot for shot but just with real people?
Because that's what people want these days.
Because it's 21st century, mate. Come on.
You want the fantasy to become real life almost. So that's why they do it.
True.
I'm sure it's some person's dream to have that story, like the ending, not the middle bit.
Oh no, I've gone sorry.
I was gonna say, how was the animation in it? Because there's a lot of facial cutlery, isn't there?
Yeah. The animation's. I think the animation's quite good. The guy who plays the Beast is the same guy who plays the main character in Legion, which you see his face properly at the end. They did the Beast. The CGI for the Beast is really good. All the inanimate objects, they're all pretty decent. Yeah, like, it's just a solid film. I would say, like, I'd give it a 7.5. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I can't really.
Can't fault it.
Yeah, not really, because like
Was Emma Watson really good then? Because I know a lot of people are a bit sceptical about her.
I wouldn't say really good. She was
was
alright.
alright.
She was like she wasn't bad.
And then one of you saying in the car earlier, saying about some kiss.
So there's been an uproar
Yeah.
from, I don't know, people who are stuck in
The corporate fat cats.
the corporate fat guys. Some people who are stuck in
the old white
Middle
men.
Ages, where there's supposedly a homosexual moment between Gaston and the character played by Josh Gad, and therefore loads of people have been trying to boycott it, especially in like countries where they're a lot more conservative.
Yeah, didn't they try and get him to like take it out, and they were like, no.
Yeah, so and one of the examples that's been in the news is Malaysia. So obviously I think that's quite an Islamic country.
Is it?
I think so.
Malaysia.
On their flag they've got the sun and stars.
Fair
I
enough.
might be wrong.
Well,
I might
fair
be
enough.
wrong. But for some reason, Malaysia asked for that to be cut out,
Yeah.
and Disney said no. So what did you notice it?
I didn't even notice it. This is how minuscule it must have been. There's a point where they are singing and dancing together, and he kind of like sits next to him and he grabs his face, but I didn't see them kiss, or maybe they did and I just didn't notice. Like he grabbed his face and their faces were really close, but I feel like he didn't. I don't know. I felt they didn't kiss, but obviously they did because people have seen it and they're going nuts.
So you
about it.
don't feel outraged by it?
Well, I didn't even bloody notice it, so clearly not. Clearly wasn't that big a deal. So you know.
So this is the first openly gay moment in a Disney film, which for 2017,
Is it gay though?
or homosexual, or this is
if, like-
this is what the
Are
press
we going to
have
go
been
into
saying.
something else?
No.
Are you going to say if you kiss me, does that make you gay?
Well, no. I'm just gonna say like. So like, let's say for example, in a film, right? Any film, whatever. Glenn, you do something fantastic for me, and I go, Glenn, oh, Glenn, I could kiss you, and I grab you by the face and kiss you. Is that gay?
No, but I think that is.
Because people do it in football.
Yeah.
People can't
Gary
smack
never
people in the
kissed
bum.
Paul Scholes.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the problems with the whole media hype is, that if they're saying that this moment is a gay moment, surely it's just a moment.
Yeah.
Like, why does it matter? I mean, I know it's supposedly a milestone for Disney because it took them till 2014 to have a black princess, didn't it? So, they're not known for being the most progressive company. But so for all the hoo-ha, the fact that you didn't even notice it,
Yeah.
do you feel like it should have been more overt? You know, for like if they've decided, yes, this is going to be the film where we have openly quote unquote gay moment.
Well, this is it. I didn't know that was the moment. That was the gay moment. So I was thinking, okay, the clock, the animated clock sounds a bit queer, you know. Like I don't know if what I said is homophobic, but yeah, he had. I think it's about Ian. Is it Ian McKellen?
Gandalf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's gay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. And so I was expecting him to, kiss the candle or something.
Yeah.
I was waiting for something like that, and even I was thinking, maybe Josh Gad's character's gonna, I don't know, reveal himself to be homosexual or something like that because he like in the film he doesn't have much luck with the ladies and stuff like that. So I was thinking, okay, maybe something like that, and then it never happened. And I was like, so I had to ask you guys, like, at what point did this happen? So like, I mean, if the point you were trying to was to show was that, oh yeah, we have a homosexual character or a homosexual moment, whatever, in our film, then maybe I feel like maybe they should have made it a bit more overt. But maybe if I watched it again, I'd probably notice it a lot. Like maybe I just wasn't paying close attention.
I thought it was quite funny because I had done it where I saw this, but I think that people were like, "Oh yeah, it's a real outrage," despite the bestiality.
That's a very good point.
Didn't she have feelings for a buffalo or a gruffalo or whatever he is?
Yeah,
true.
That's a good point. So everyone's like, "Oh my god, homosexuality is so bad," but you can fuck an animal. I was also going to say this has also kind of been touched upon in Star Trek Beyond. So in Sulu, played by George Takei in the TV show, who is himself homosexual, but the character was never kind of neither one nor the other.
Yeah.
So in Star Trek Beyond, John was his name John Cho?
John Cho,
Who now plays Sulu. He has a husband in the film. So it was kind of a tribute to George Takei. But it was such a fleeting moment that people were like, why did you do that? You weren't saying anything about, you weren't trying to progress LGBT rights or LGBTQ rights.
What were they meant to do? What in that film should they have done?
That's what I want to pose to you guys. Like, again, does it need to be a song and dance? Or should it just be, surely, and obviously none of us here identify as homosexual, so it's tough for us to talk about this respectfully, and hopefully we are doing that. But surely the point is for this to be accepted, right? So therefore it shouldn't be, for an argument's sake, it shouldn't be made a song and dance of. It should just be natural. But then because there's been so little kind of visibility of these issues and characters, does it therefore, do they in a sense need to overcompensate by being obvious about it? Or
I think that might have a backlash though.
That's literally what I was about to say.
For the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
But I think as well they I know you saying that they didn't have to mention it, but maybe it is just like you said, a respect for George Takei, who did the original, you know.
Yeah. So I think personally it's good that it's kind of subtle.
Yeah.
Live and let live. If you want to have gay characters in your film, as long as they are progressive to the story and are good in the story, then your character can be whatever sexuality that they want to be. I don't give a monkey's.
Damn straight.
Well played.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something to edit out. I was like, yeah, mate, Moonlight, he's not even gay, is he? He was just getting off with his mate. His family just tossing him
To be
around.
fair, we don't know. Yeah,
The thing, like, Chiron never comes out as gay, does he?
And neither does Kevin.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Well, and Kevin's got a child and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays it's all kind of fluid, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, one film which us three, Obi, Chris, and I saw was we went to the cinema to see A Silent Voice, which is an anime film. So anime is essentially Japanese animation. This one was based on a manga, which again is a Japanese comic book. It was about a deaf girl who starts school and she gets bullied by a man called Ishida.
I would say she gets bullied by several people. But
she gets bullied by several people, but he's the instigator, Ishida. And then, so that's when they're in 6th grade, which I guess they're about 10, 11. And then
jumps to 6 years later.
Yeah, jumps to 6 years later. He's kind of isolated because he was kind of ousted as the bully. And
he was then get bullied, wasn't he?
Yeah, and then he kind of sees her again, and it's about their kind of romance.
Is it a romance though? This is what. Sorry, can I quickly ask you, Chris and Glenn? Can I ask you? Do you think that Ishida was actually attracted to? What's that? Oh, I've forgotten her name.
Nakasuri?
Something like that. Nishimi, innit?
I think.
Do you think
I think on the road to redemption, he sees her in a different light, and I think because he spent so much time with her, I think he does almost see the beauty in her. But then he does say at the end, you always get the sense of feeling that he admits that he was doing this for redemption.
Yeah, out of guilt.
Yeah, but then he says it. Doesn't he say he then changed his mind about it all, kind of thing, and then he says sorry. But that's the thing. That's the one thing about the film which is a bit too open. Like you don't know if he's done it for redemption and his mindset's changed and he just actually wants to do it because he's actually fallen in love with her, or if it is just throughout the whole thing redemption.
Yeah.
And then he's almost suddenly just realised it's almost just for redemption, because she does fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Which is another cliffhanger.
I just get the impression. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris.
Yeah.
I just got the impression that he wasn't like she obviously really liked him, but I just got the impression that he either was just completely, maybe he does like her and was completely oblivious to the fact that she liked him, or he just didn't like her that way.
I think it could have been one or the other, you're right. But I think because of all the torture he had for that past 6 years, and how no one even thought about him in them 6 years, like he had the X's across everyone's faces because he doesn't look at anyone or hear anyone, that maybe he was so oblivious to it because of the way he's been treated for the past 6 years.
That's a good point.
I mean, another bit in the film, which again you had your own opinion about, which I think was a good opinion, was the beginning where he gives up his job, gets the money out, gives it to his mum, then stands on a railing of a bridge.
To commit suicide.
To commit suicide, but you think it was just his mind playing.
I thought
you thought
it was.
His mind playing tricks on him, or him.
I thought he was imagining himself,
and then
committing
all of a sudden
suicide.
he's down on the ground.
Like he didn't actually get up to do it, but he was going to, sort of thing. But then the fireworks or whatever happened, and that just snapped him out of his.
I noticed that, like, just thinking about it, there's a lot of in the film connections to the beginning bit. Like, so talking about the bridge, they both fall off a bridge into a river to get a book. Also, fireworks at the beginning. Fireworks is where she then decides, I'm going to go and kill myself.
Yeah, so a lot of parallels.
A lot of parallels.
And also, I guess essentially, when he eventually, so the female character then because she tells Ishida that she loves him, and because she's deaf, her voice sounds like different. And he misunderstands it.
The moon.
He thought she said something about the moon.
Yeah.
And then so she tries to kill herself. So she jumps off a balcony, but he saves her, and then he falls off the balcony into the river and hits his head and becomes comatose. So I thought that was what would have happened if he had jumped off the bridge.
Also, talking about the moon, wasn't when he found her again, which you found really stupid at the very end, wasn't it massive moon in the background? Or am I just imagining that?
I think there was.
So maybe that could relate to her saying
sounds
moon.
like a real love story.
No, there's a scene. The scene where she's.
Yeah,
I think you'll like it. There's the scene where she's about to kill herself and he's like racing over to save her. That scene was tense. Like, I was watching that and I wasn't sure if either of them were gonna survive. Like if she was gonna jump and that was really well done.
It was madness though, because like obviously in their culture they've got to take off their shoes before they enter certain rooms in the house.
Yeah.
And he literally watched and took off his shoes before he went racing over, and I was like, come on,
just scrub the carpet afterwards. Bro.
Yeah. But it was a good film.
It was, yeah.
And especially one of the characters brought humour to the film as well.
Yeah. But he was, again, he was a caricature. He was a short, fat guy, kind of, they played on
Uncle.
the caricature.
Yeah.
I thought it was really cute. It was kind of a nice love story, but I did find it problematic in terms of, I felt that they kind of treated quite serious issues very blasé.
So I think they do that a lot though.
Suicide. Yeah. It was just like, so the main character, Shida, at the beginning tries to commit suicide, and then decides not to, but his mum finds the money and the note, and then he comes back and she's just like, oh, you idiot, what are you doing? He's like, oh, sorry. And she's like, oh, it's okay. It's kind of like, I mean, there are more ramifications than that, but it's kind of just kind of brushed under the carpet.
Yeah.
And
then they bring humour to it as well, because he's like saved up 1.7 million yen, which is I think like £17,000, and she accidentally sets it on fire, and that's the humour after, like immediately after they've just discussed this point, and then they've brought some humour into it.
And I was like, that is such a serious topic, especially like teenage suicide, which I think is quite a prevalent issue in Japan. They just kind of treated it kind of really nonchalantly, and I was kind of like, that's a bit kind of disrespectful.
I mean, they mentioned it, but it probably wasn't the key message in their thing, though, was it? In their film, it was about this love story.
Yeah, but then also that she tries to commit suicide as well, so that's obviously it's quite a theme, and also I thought it was one thing I liked about it was you don't see a lot of films from the perspective of the bully, and he did try to redeem himself, but I felt like the female character was too one-dimensional in that she, he would bully her.
She just took it.
And
she would
be, I'm so sorry. And she would try so hard. She was like, oh, can we be friends? Can we be friends? He was like, no, don't want to be a friend. And she would just forgive him. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want you to be that passive. I want you to stand up for yourself.
She just wants to be accepted, though. So this is the thing. Like, she just wants to feel part of a group. So like, you're probably willing to do anything to be accepted into so like even if they're taking the piss out of you or bullying you, physically hurting you, you're just like, oh, it's okay, just because you want to feel part of accepted part of a group. Also
in this film, like she got bullied quite a bit, and you never get the sense that any point through this bullying that she wanted to kill herself. You get the sense she was upset, she never wanted to kill herself. And I know we just told you that she does try and kill herself, but I got the thought that she tried to kill herself. I could be wrong. She tried to kill herself because I feel like she felt like she was such a burden on him. Yeah. Like he was trying to redeem himself so much that he was like trying to care for her, be her best mate, trying to do everything for her. And in the end, she had such a great day with him. She tried to kill herself.
Yeah, because she doesn't think that she deserves him. Which again was like, he's fucking bullied you for ages, and he's an absolute twat. But you still love him, and he doesn't reciprocate your love, or not overtly.
Well, yeah, well.
And that's something which I was like, please, I just want a happy ending. I want, because she says like, I love you, and he thinks she says something about the moon, and I was like, please, just at the end, just tell her you love her.
Also, so she gives him this present of 3 like
Cats.
and he doesn't really understand what they mean. Me personally, I don't really understand what it means either. It must be some. It might be some cultural thing. And then he realizes towards the end, because his little sister, his little sister, niece, puts the 3 cats in a plant pot.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, so that's what they're there for then. And you kind of get the feeling he's like kind of clicked and understood what they do, but he never refers back to that again. It's kind of just brushed over.
Yeah, there's a lot kind of unsaid, and there was a lot of kind of repetition of, especially they say sorry all the fucking time, and like they go to this bridge to feed carps a lot, and like I don't know, and again because I've not seen any anime apart from Spirited Away, so I don't know if it's a cultural thing or in terms of storytelling or just iconography, but I was kind of it felt really long, and I was like, come on, speed it up a bit. I did like it, but I was just like, it was about 20 minutes.
I've watched quite a lot, and it was quite different to anything I've seen. Like, no, I didn't get any of those cultural references, and I usually look them up when I see something, and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure what that is, but this, no, I don't know, didn't really do anything. Like, I didn't notice anything that I would have noticed before in previous ones. So,
but it would definitely make me want to watch more anime. I don't know. There's no particular reason I've never watched it, but it was a pleasant surprise.
Anime can almost do stuff that it's like when I'm saying about them remaking the animations into TV.
Yeah.
Because we've got the ability to do that now. It's kind of making the not so reality into reality. So this is what kind of anime does. Like, it can do things that you couldn't normally do in a real life situation, almost like.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it wouldn't be as poignant as it was if it was real life.
Real life, yeah.
Especially when Hollywood inevitably cast white people in their roles. Yeah. So hopefully they leave it alone and just as an anime. But yeah, it was cute.
I liked it.
I think if you like that, then they also recommend for you to watch Your Name.
Yeah, that came out late last year, I think. Maybe we'll try and check that out. But what animes have you seen? Does it tend to be TV shows?
TV shows, yeah.
What sort of things do you watch?
I watch all them all. Anything that comes up on this site, well, not
anime section on Netflix.
Yeah, I've watched pretty much everything on there. Usually action ones though. I don't really go into these heartfelt ones. Yeah. I think I've seen one heartfelt one. I think it was something Beats. It was like about people who. It was about these people who. When they die, they go to this other plane, and they've got to kind of, they've got to do something to make themselves go to the other side almost, but these people that he meets are like fighting this girl who's trying to take him to the other side almost, and then they become friends with her, and then the guy falls in love with her, and then finds out that he is really her because he became a doctor, and he signed up to give all his organs away, and I think his heart went into her.
God.
I think I could be getting this completely wrong.
Jesus.
Yeah, sorry.
That sounds peculiar.
Yeah. But there's loads of stuff like that. But the action ones I think are the ones I'm more watching.
And we're watching one in a few weeks, aren't we? Sword Art Online.
Sword Art Online.
Sword Art Online.
Which a lot of people don't like, but.
So that's going to be one that we'll talk about in a few episodes' time. So maybe Ollie, you can come along to that. Maybe you can try and check out A Silent Voice as well.
Talking of, though, going right back round to Beauty and the Beast, I believe I heard that they are making Aladdin and Little Mermaid.
Really?
Yeah. Or I'm pretty sure they're doing Aladdin. I'm pretty sure that's confirmed.
Okay.
Little Mermaid.
Dev Patel for Aladdin.
You said it, mate. You said it here first. But I'm not sure if the Little Mermaid one's true, but I'm sure I saw a teaser trailer or a fan-made trailer, and I was a bit because I've never seen it. So
oh my god! Under the sea.
Yeah, mate. I've never seen it, so I can't really make a comment, mate. I've seen Aladdin though.
Everyone knows that song, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the.
And they got talking crabs and lobsters and things like that.
Hell yeah. Maybe she can be Aquaman's wife. Boom. DC Universe. But the thing is, like, I think Little Mermaid, there's a statue of her in Copenhagen because I can't remember the original. Hans Christian Andersen, I think,
Oh, yeah.
originally created the fairy tale, but it was a lot darker than the Disney kind of
That's
fluffy
like
Most
version.
of them are really
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah,
aren't they?
maybe we should have like a proper like hardcore
Oh,
Little
no,
Mermaid.
I'm not doing English lit again, mate. No thanks.
Actually, talking about water, we've seen Tusk, haven't we?
I saw
The Kevin
Tusk.
Smith film.
I saw Tusk a long time ago, and I would not recommend to anyone to go through that torture of watching that film ever.
Well,
Ever.
I
It's the most ridiculously stupid story.
Alright, tell us the plot.
Oh no, you can do it, mate. You can do the honour of telling us the plot.
Okay.
Because I think it's
So
horrendous.
it's the second most recent film from Kevin Smith, who is kind of an auteur, which basically means that like he often controls all of his own production and a lot of the like his own ideas, and he has a lot of creative control over it. He's a guy who did Clerks,
Jane Silent
Mallrats,
Bob.
Jane Silent Bob, Chasing Amy. So kind of all of these, if you've
Dogma.
not heard them, cult hits from the 90s, like comedy hits. And then since kind of 2000s, he's not really done too much. Done Red State, which was like a kind of action
yeah.
horror film, which I don't think... basically, critically, he has not been as successful
Yeah, he's
since
done
2000s.
a few bits of Flash as well, episodes.
Yeah.
And he has his own TV series called The Comic Book Men, which is pretty good and quite funny actually. You might enjoy it because it's about comic books and it relates to the superhero universe. But anyway, go on.
Yeah. But, so, yeah, he released this kind of horror film called Tusk, which he got the idea for from a Gumtree ad. So with the classification website Gumtree, someone had posted saying, "Oh, I will give you free lodging at my house if you wear a walrus costume." It was a joke, and Kevin Smith saw this and thought, "What a great idea for a horror film!" So the premise of Tusk is that this guy, played by Justin Long, hosts a podcast. Obviously not as good as this one, and here's a story of this kind of old man in Canada who has all these kind of war stories and a really interesting life. So he goes to interview him, and then he gets there and starts interviewing him, and then the guy starts talking about his life at sea and how he kind of became friends with a walrus who saved his life because he was cast out to sea and like the walrus kept him warm and stuff. And anyway, turns out that this guy, the mad crazy old man, had to eat the walrus to stay alive and felt really bad about it. So he abducts Justin Long's character and basically mutilates him in various ways to make him look like a walrus. And then he keeps him captive in this little kind of pond in his basement and gets him to act like a walrus to be his friend. And
This is messed
it's,
up.
I mean,
Sounds stupid.
it's
as
the...
fuck.
And then the ending is that his girlfriend who was cheated on him with his best mate
Who's played by Haley Joel Osment from Sixth Sense fame.
then save him and then keep him as a pet.
Yeah.
What?
So they keep Justin Long as a pet in a zoo. As a walrus.
This sounds stupid.
And, I mean...
This is making me angry just listening to you talk.
It is so bad because I like Kevin Smith, so I watched this film,
Yeah.
but this was
It was
bad.
diabolical.
If you ever listen to this, Kevin Smith, I'm sorry.
No,
but-
because Kevin Smith even says it's shit.
Okay, well then I agree with you.
So Kevin Smith, when you eventually come on his podcast, which is also a lot better than your Smodcast, it's shit. And like the fucking prosthetic walrus costume that Justin Long has to wear just looks shite. It looks like it was handmade by like year threes, and I was
Johnny Depp's character was useless as
Yep.
well.
I watched it. It angered me because it was kind of all right. It was kind of like an all right kind of abduction thriller, and then it
Turned him into a walrus.
just went to shit, and I was just like, "Why the fuck?"
Because it wasn't the first time this guy had done it either, because he tried to make the main character who turned into a walrus swim, because the previous guy had died from trying to swim, and he managed to do it.
But what angered me the most is that this film cost $4 million to make, and someone gave Kevin Smith $4 million fucking dollars to make this film. Whereas I'm just like,
How much did it make?
a lot less.
$3.
And the fact that I bought it on DVD as well, so I contributed to the.
What are you doing, dear?
I've contributed to the potential profit of this film, so Kevin Smith want my fucking money back. But I don't know. I don't want to end on that bum note. Has anyone got any good films that they've seen recently?
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men, yes. 12 Angry Men. One Angry Man here about Tusk, but 12 Angry Men in the 1950s. So, talk us through it, Obes.
So like the film is just like, it's pretty much like a bottle episode, isn't it? But it's just like
A what episode?
a bottle episode. You know, like where they do in TV shows where they just do an episode with pretty much the main characters and they just take one set to save money. They just use one.
Oh, right,
They
yeah.
just use one set. So it's pretty much like that, because I think that's isn't like 93 out of the 96 minutes of the film is filmed in that one room.
Yeah.
The other 3 minutes in the toilet. But you know, I thought it was really good, really simple. Like, I think they fleshed out most of the characters.
Tell us what it's
pretty
about.
well. Oh, sorry. So this is both you two, Ollie and Gunny, both recommended me to watch it. So it's about a 12-man jury who are discussing the fate of a man who, at the start, 11 of the 12 men think that he's guilty of killing his father, and there's one man who is not sure beyond reasonable doubt that this guy's guilty, so he tries to convince everyone to come around with his way of thinking. And then lots of arguing and debating happens, and eventually everyone just switches to the other side, and they go not guilty. But yeah, the way, like the amount of people who shifted throughout the film, like the way I feel like the way the film progressed was really good.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be? I was just thinking, like, wouldn't it have been like a really cool twist at the end if it turned out that Henry Fonda's character was actually the murderer, but he felt bad about this kid going to prison for a crime that he committed, so he did his best to try and get them to. I would have thought that would have been such a good. That was such a funny thing for them to do.
Speaking of the ending, though, it's here they only find out each other's name.
Yeah, just those
Names.
two characters. Yeah.
Right at the end. It's like, oh, by the way, what's your name? Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to share names, are you?
Are you not?
I don't think so. You're not allowed to share names. Yeah.
I thought it was fascinating. It was really thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Because obviously, because they're all kind of older white men. And I think, isn't the kid, he's like a working-class, poor slum kid. And then they're like, kind of like, they assume that because that's his background that he's guilty, right?
Yeah.
And then...
Well, yeah.
And then they kind of deconstruct the events because they're like, oh, well, they heard the gunshot and they saw him running out. And they're like, but how could you... Because you live near a train track, so how could you...
Hear the scream,
he proper went through every... Like, that guy would have been a sick lawyer. Like, that character would have been such a good lawyer. He went through every point and just deconstructed it, and like everyone was like, oh yeah, I'm sure he's guilty because this point, and he literally went through every point systematically and disproved all of them. I just thought he was... Like, that guy was so, like, clever.
I'm really glad you enjoyed it, because I thought if you had come back and said, no, I didn't enjoy that film, I would have been really angry at you and upset. Because we watched it, and, you know, like you said, it's really thought-provoking, because, you know, it's just clever.
Yeah. I thought, it was just so good, man. And I really liked the bit where, might be draw number 10, I'm not sure, or 11, I don't know. But he goes off on that rant about people from the slums and stuff like that, and he's just going off and off and off. And one by one, everyone just turns their back to him, and he was just like, what? As if what he said wasn't offensive at all, and then he just shuts up and sits by the desk by himself.
Just like, sit down, mate. Stop shouting. No one's listening.
Yeah. It's good that these films, because this film's from the early 50s, they stand the test of time, and I think obviously on this podcast we talk about a lot of current films, and especially being the age we are, kind of something from the 80s is old to us, but you know, it's again, you know, even whilst we do this podcast, we're kind of exposing ourselves to films that we wouldn't usually watch.
Yeah.
Especially like the anime that we saw.
Yeah.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Go for it.
So, do you think the boy did it?
I want to say no.
I don't think so.
You don't think he did?
I would have.
The facts is he convinced me, mate.
Would you have liked to have known at the end of the film whether or not he did it, or is it good that they didn't tell you?
For me, the point wasn't whether he did it or not. The point was about these 11 ignorant men
Making assumptions.
changing their mind and about about prejudgment.
Okay.
I don't know. What did you think?
No,
Ollie?
I wouldn't have liked to know whether he would have done it.
Wait, 11?
So obviously,
'cause obviously
like Henry
one-
Fonda's
yeah.
character doesn't prejudge, whereas the other 11 do.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I just... to be fair, I like, sometimes when I watch films, I just read through the plot on Wikipedia, because I'm weird. And I looked through the part where it said about just like how it was perceived. And there was actually people saying that, you know how the part where they're like just pretty much dissecting at every point, he tried to play out the old man going from his bedroom to the thing, stuff like everything like that. There was a person who, when they were reviewing it, said like, now in present day they would not allow them to do that sort of stuff in in a juror's whatever, and he was saying that like you wouldn't because I get what they were doing with the film, saying like it's possible that he done this, but it's also possible that he didn't do it. But they were saying that like they were making assumptions based on, you know, like speculation.
Yeah.
Rather than like assumptions that the assumptions they were saying that the assumptions
Rather than the evidence.
Exactly. So they were saying that, well, the guy who wrote it said that if he was in the jurors' room, he wouldn't have let that sort of attitude stand, because he would have gone based on the evidence. But then I was thinking that's literally the point of the film.
Yeah.
That they were all going on the evidence,
Yeah.
and not like sometimes you have to look outside of it, and the things that you don't know, so the things that are most important.
Because I think right at the beginning, when the person who leads them from the courtroom to the jury room, he says, "Look, this is an open and shut case."
Yeah.
I think the defence didn't really put up a defence, because it was like a
Court-appointed lawyer.
court-appointed lawyer. So it was just kind of like, there was a gunshot and he ran away. Whereas, you know, they didn't mention the train or anything like that. I can't remember, but is there a couple of people in the jury who just changed their mind because they're kind of fed up? Because one
The
of
guy
them's
with
got
the baseball.
The guy with
tickets.
baseball is the one who changed his mind because he's fed up.
And
they
the other
ask him-
sales ad guy, he keeps changing his mind backwards and forwards. And then they're like, well, it's a hung jury because this guy's changing his mind left, right and centre. But they do eventually.
Because would you mention, maybe I'm completely wrong, but did that not happen with O.J. Simpson or
What,
another important case? People just kind of like, oh, I just changed my mind because I'm...
Yeah, no, that definitely happened. Yeah,
Okay.
because there were people on the jury who were adamant that he didn't do it, and that they were not going to change their mind. So like, I don't know how many, but I'm pretty sure a fair chunk of the jury were like, I just want, because they were together in that jury for ages, so they were probably all sick of each other, probably all wanted to go home to their families, because they put them up in a hotel and whatever, so they couldn't really see the outside world. So I'm pretty sure most of them just got to the point where they're like, I just want this to be over, and then they went with the not guilty verdict, and then afterwards they're like, oh, I actually thought he was guilty, but blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I always think like, if it's me, obviously I've never been on a jury, so I've never been put in that situation. Obviously I have never been away from all these people for however many months. But if it's me, and I think that someone's guilty or not guilty, and I'm adamant that they're guilty or either one or the other, there's no way I'm changing my mind just so I can
this is
get
someone's life.
That's someone's life, exactly. Because you could be potentially putting an innocent man in prison or a killer or whatever back out on the streets. I think that's ridiculous.
Do you have the courage to admit though that if if you have reasonable doubt, or if someone has a convincing argument, you would change? Because I know you, Obes. You're quite a stubborn bastard.
But, I mean, I've started to watch American Crime Story, the OJ, People versus O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
I've only seen one episode, but that's, very interesting.
Yeah,
Hopefully I'll be able to talk about it in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, I really like that series. It's really good.
It was.
Okay,
Well, no, I was just going to go back to a point you made. Tusk?
Yeah.
It's part of a trilogy, yeah?
Yeah, the Great North trilogy or something.
Yeah, and
Yoga Hoses is the second,
Yeah.
which apparently Griffin Smith has also admitted that film is shit.
Do you know how much they spent and how much they made?
6 million they made.
5 million, and they made
10 grand.
40 grand.
40 grand.
That's mental.
That's the like.
This is
What is wrong with Hollywood that people with great film ideas like me, like, are never gonna make a film, whereas
You don't know, mate. Never say never.
Nothing like that you won't.
wow.
Justin Bieber never say never.
Innit?
Right, when this takes off, we'll buy a camera and we'll do it all, mate.
I know, when we get all of the famous celebrities on the show, because they're always tweeting us like, oh my god, please, I don't want to go on Graham Norton again, just can I come on your podcast? I'm like, well,
Did you ever watch Hardcore Henry?
no, but I really want to see that.
Okay. That just came to my head.
Chris, you have a quick little chat about Iron Fist.
Got him? Yeah, got him.
So Iron Fist is the fourth Marvel Netflix show.
Yep, fourth.
It revolves around a character called Danny Rand who was presumed dead with his parents because there was a plane crash or something like that. But he survives and he comes back to New York 15 years later.
Yeah.
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 And he wants to do other stuff. So, Chris, you've watched the first 7 episodes.
Yeah.
7?
Yeah, I think it's getting better.
I've
Progressively
watched
better.
the first 4. What do you think of it so far?
I think it's getting progressively better. I don't know where it stands in line with the 4 that have been there. Because I'm almost at the sense that I think all of them have their hit and miss moments. Like, they definitely do. Whether you can definitively say one's the better one out of all of them, maybe Daredevil takes the edge, I don't know.
Okay. Then that's got the advantage of having 2 series, because Series 2 was a hell of a lot better than Series 1.
Ages to watch Series 1.
Yeah, okay. I suppose. However, I still think it's
a
mad idea.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the whole idea of Iron Fist is pretty ridiculous as well. But, yeah, it's good. It's getting there. It's making progression. I mean, the whole idea is when he first returns, he just wants a sense of clarity on what happened. I thought was a bit, okay, yeah, I understand where he's coming from. And then all of a sudden, in another episode, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm going to just take back the 51% of the company that I own. And then...
I feel like it's really wishy-washy as to what he wants to achieve by coming back to
There's a bit more clarity to it
fair
because it's not so much spoiler because we spoke about this before, and you said you heard of it in Daredevil. I can't quite remember it, but he is the Iron Fist, and the whole idea of the Iron Fist is that he's meant to eradicate the Hand, and the Hand was a big part of season 2, I believe.
Yeah, so the Hand's in Hell's Kitchen in New York. Part of Daredevil 1 and 2 is the Chinese community are dealing drugs or something.
Yeah.
And then in Daredevil Series 2, I think Elektra gets captured, but there's some sort of, I can't remember even what I referred it to as earlier, the weapon or something.
Yeah.
And there's all about, whose weapon? And
that's a different weapon. I
thought Elektra was the weapon.
I think Elektra's is the Hand's weapon. And almost the Iron Fist is the opposite end.
Oh, okay.
And they're maybe going to fight out. But it's all speculation. I mean, for me, I don't know about you. Who do you think crashed the plane? Someone must have destroyed that plane somehow.
I don't want to spoil it, but I feel like it's self-sabotage. Not self-sabotage, but someone sabotaged that plane.
Yeah.
It didn't just crash by accident.
It's like, in my head, it's like one of 3 people.
Yeah. I like it. I prefer it to the first 4 episodes. I prefer to the first 4 episodes of Jessica Jones so far, but it's not as good as Luke Cage or Daredevil in my opinion. I think the fight scenes are lame, like really, really shit. Like compared to the fight scenes in Daredevil, which are like sick. Like and for like obviously he's like a kung fu master or something like that. I just think they're just really, really poorly shot. I think that I like the Danny Rand character, but I think maybe the actor's not good enough to pull it off.
Okay.
I think it's the same guy who plays like Loris Tyrell.
Yeah, Loris Tyrell.
Yeah. And there is a kind of a sort of twist. I think it's revealed in the first episode that I feel is. I'm not going to say it, but I think it's really, really, really obvious that it's coming. But yeah, I'm going to watch the rest of it so far. But I think it's a decent show.
I've got like a few points actually. Now you said that. I'd like to actually see Iron Fist versus Daredevil fight because they're both martial art experts. But you assume Iron Fist is more so.
He's probably had more training.
Yeah.
Actually, probably not.
And you say that.
Yeah, he has one fist full of power.
The
He can put
Iron
all
Fist.
his chi in his
Yeah, something to do with that.
hand, and he can bust whatever. But like, yeah, he has fight scenes. He doesn't win with ease, which makes me think he's not a master at all. Second of all, the Mandarin speaking.
Oh God, it's so bad.
Literally someone else speaking, and he's just
so bad. It's like those Japanese films where you see their mouth move and then the voice comes afterwards. It's literally that. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was going to say another point, but it'd be a spoiler, so I'm just going to leave it.
So you're halfway through the series and it's only just getting good. Is that
No, it's like episode 5-ish. It was okay, and it's getting better.
I mean, is that not too long to wait to kind of... I mean, I guess the only reason you two are sticking with it is because it feeds into the Defenders and also the Marvel. Maybe
because they're going to be in the Avengers, but their name was in it, so... but they might only be a snippet. It might literally just be looking at them at some point. And then...
But is that too long to wait? Like, would you have given up if it was any other series by the episode 5 if it still wasn't?
I think if I just watched it and it had no connection to the other 3 shows, and I was just watching it and I'd watch the first few episodes, and if it wasn't 13 episodes, because that's not that many episodes. If it was like Arrow or Flash when it's like 23 episodes, I probably would have given up by now.
Because it took me 4 or 5 episodes to get into Luke Cage, and I was at the point of being like, nah, I'm gonna give up.
Fair enough.
Thing is, I want to say more, but I can't because it'd just give away too much. But
Yeah,
I'll
you
try.
can.
I'll try.
I can't because he's watching it. So next time, hopefully we've finished watching it. I don't know.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about that. I'm gonna keep watching it.
I'm gonna try and watch that. God, so many shows I want to watch now.
I know. I want someone's recommended to me Peaky Blinders and Westworld, so I've definitely got to get on them.
Westworld, yes.
I've heard Santa Clarita Diet is quite good, which is.
I heard it
Netflix.
wasn't very good.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'll test the water on that one. I'll give it a few episodes.
Is that one Drew Barrymore?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I heard it wasn't very good.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of episode 8 of Your Average Critics. I hope you enjoyed our chat on Get Out, spoiler-filled Logan, and A Silent Voice, among many, many others. We've had a bumper episode this week. Please do get involved in our conversations. Tweet us at YAC Podcast 17 or post on our Facebook page, which is Your Average Critics. We, welcome any sort of feedback, any comments you want, discussions for any future podcasts, because we've already read out about 3 listeners' questions, so we do read them, we do take them on board, and we do discuss them. Hopefully we treat them with the wit that you hope. Please tune in next week, which we don't know what we're talking about quite yet, but I'm hoping to see Beauty and the Beast. I don't know. Power Rangers.
I can't wait.
How could I forget?
I can't wait.
So yes, I think that's going to be shite, but Obi is.
I don't think it's going to be good either. I just really want to watch it.
Okay, well, we will give you our verdict next
There is
week.
a post-credit scene as well.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, we'll stay tuned for that. Everyone's jumping on the Marvel bandwagon. Ollie's going to have watched all 51 Marvel Cinematic Universe films by then. 51. I'm being facetious.
As always, mate.
As always. Tune in next week. See ya.
Bye.